Welcome back from lunch. We are going to dive right back into things for our next session. If everyone wants to take a seat, our next session is on the Pediatric Priority Review Vouchers Reauthorization. And we can welcome up our panel, Jamie Sullivan, Melissa Kennedy, and Chris Jones. If you guys want to make your way up to the front. And for those of you, you're welcome to sit at your state tables now to eliminate moving during the Preparing for Successful Meetings session, but you don't have to if there's not room at that table yet. So don't stress. Yeah. So if you're sitting, stay seated, is basically what I was trying to say. You're good, don't worry. All right.
Should I wait for a minute or start?
We're over already.
All right. Hi, everyone. Since we're going to try to stay on time to some degree, we're a little bit 5 minutes behind already, so we're going to get started while everyone gets a seat. All right. Great. Well, welcome back from lunch and that really inspiring group photo. I'm Jamie Sullivan. I'm our Vice President of Policy at the Every Life Foundation. It's so amazing to be here with all of you again this year, and for those who are new, welcome. We are here to talk about another legislative ask, and that is the Creating Hope Reauthorization Act of 2024, otherwise known as the reauthorization of the Pediatric Rare Priority Review Voucher. So if you haven't had enough acronyms already today, get used to these three little letters, PRV, because we hope that you will get to know what they are through this session and get to a point of comfort so that you all can go into your meetings tomorrow and talk about this really vital program to rare pediatric drug development. So I'm joined today by two panelists who you hear from in a moment. I'm going to just cover some basics about what is the PRV program. I'm joined by Chris Jones, who's a senior policy advisor for Representative Gus Bilirakis, who's also a co-chair of the Rare Disease Congressional Caucus. And I'm also joined by Melissa Kennedy, who's the CEO of the International Rett Syndrome Foundation, who's going to talk about how the PRV has benefited the Rett community. So first, let's learn a little bit about what the PRV is. All right. So as you all know, orphan drug therapy development is challenging. When you add in the pediatric element, it becomes even more challenging. There's even, often smaller patient populations. There's a lot more complications in designing trials for pediatric diseases. And then we all know that on average, it takes over 6 years just to get a diagnosis of a rare disease, which adds another layer of complication to developing effective drugs for pediatric diseases. For all of these reasons, we know we need to add another piece to the puzzle of the incentives that drive forward therapy development in rare diseases. So we're going to talk a little bit about how the PRV fits into that puzzle. PRV has had an impact on the rare disease community. It has led to the approvals of over 49 drugs for pediatric rare diseases that cut across about 40 different distinct rare disease communities. So we know that it is, in fact, an important piece of the rare puzzle. So what is a PRV? So to be eligible to get a PRV, it is a drug that is rare pediatric designation from the FDA, meaning it is intended to treat diseases that predominantly affect kids. And it has to be eligible for priority review, which most rare disease treatments are. The voucher comes in after approval. So if a drug has been deemed eligible, meaning they have rare pediatric designation and they're eligible for priority review, after it's approved, that company will be awarded a PRV, the voucher. And that voucher can then be used or sold, which is really truly the incentive part of the incentive, and it can be redeemed for, and go to the next slide here, it can be redeemed to obtain accelerated review on a future drug, or the company, and typically this is often how it's used, the company is able to transfer or sell that voucher to another company who will then use that voucher on a drug that wouldn't otherwise qualify for priority review. So let's just break it down again. The incentive part of the PRV program and the reason why it helps accelerate pediatric drug development for rare diseases is the fact that you get a voucher after your drug is approved that you can either use to get a 4-month faster review by approximately 4 months by the FDA, or you can sell to another company and to generate revenue to keep your rare programs or your company going after the fact, and reinvest back into rare disease research or further research on that treatment that you just had approved. So it's a really important incentive in the process. And the PRV has been around first in 2007, when it was created for tropical diseases. It was an interesting, innovative concept of a new type of incentive. So you all are familiar with the incentives in the Orphan Drug Act, which really relate to exclusivity. You get additional years of exclusivity before your product might face competition, or tax credits in a number of ways, or fee waivers. The PRV was a little bit different, right? It came in and it added a new layer to the incentive puzzle. And in 2012, it was expanded to apply to rare diseases. And since then, it has continually been reauthorized. So it's an important part to know about the PRV, and I think you'll hear from Chris and others that it does expire, it sunsets. As with many programs that Congress creates, it sunsets. And so we have continued to see it be reauthorized with broad bipartisan support so far, and we're hopeful that that might happen again, but there are some complications in the way, and you'll hear about that from Chris. So a couple things just, again, as key takeaways. And we'll circle back to this, but you're gonna go and you're gonna talk about, please reauthorize the Rare Pediatric Priority Review Voucher Program at the FDA. In the House, you'll hear from Chris, there is a bill already. It's called the Creating Hope Reauthorization Act of 2024. In the Senate, we don't yet have a bill, but that makes it even more important that you're going and raising awareness and talking about the PRV program. So I'm gonna sit down, we're gonna hear from Chris some thoughts about what's happening in the PRV program, and then we'll hear from Melissa about how it's impacted her community, and again, about 40 of your communities have benefited from this program that helped push those decisions over the line to make sure that those drugs, those programs went forward for pediatric rare diseases. So I hope you will join me in supporting this ask tomorrow. And Chris, I invite you to you can come up, or you can, either way.
Hello. So as Jamie said, I'm Chris Jones. I work on healthcare policy for Congressman Gus Bilirakis, who serves as the co-chair of the Rare Disease Caucus, something that he has always been very passionate about in trying to find ways for Congress to help incentivize additional treatments to come to market, additional cures. And that comes in many different ways. That comes through investment in research and development at the NIH, that comes through streamlining processes at the FDA over the years. And this has been one of the programs that we've certainly been very proud of. And this bill, H.R. 7384, the Creating Hope Reauthorization Act of 2024, is one of the bills that he is a co-lead on. There are 6 members of Congress who are already in support as co-leads or original co-sponsors. And so we're off to a good bipartisan start. We certainly take pride in trying to be as bipartisan as possible. And this is something that, as Jamie alluded to, historically there's been a lot of precedents for Congress stepping in and being willing to provide additional incentives. The Orphan Drug Act being the first, right? In 1983, there was 39 orphan products available, and now we're over 600 actual treatments. That was because the Congress recognized that this is a problem. There are unique challenges in getting the research that we may have, finding patients, getting the patient populations even identified in the first place, and then getting them into clinical trials and through the process of getting a treatment to market. And so this was a program, an idea that started out prior to focusing on rare diseases. It was tropical diseases originally, which was another area in which Congress recognized, hey, we don't have the traditional incentives that the private sector would have otherwise. So how can we spur on an additional way for companies to invest in research and development here? And the priority review voucher was a really unique way to do that, because and very attractive for a lot of members of Congress, because it does not cost any taxpayer dollars. This is just something that we are saying, if you do this, you will be rewarded with a streamlined process by the agency that you need approval from. And by the way, when those processes get rewarded, when a voucher gets rewarded, 6 months approval time is something that the FDA does take very seriously, and they meet their mark on that. And that in and of itself is a good thing, that we're getting treatments to market faster. But in terms of the 2012 idea of, hey, let's step in again like we have in the past, focus on children, on pediatric rare diseases, which are an additional barrier in terms of finding children with rare diseases, and trying to incentivize those programs to come to market where possible. We have found that this has been a really successful program thus far. 39, as Jamie mentioned, pediatric rare treatments that have come to market and were awarded a voucher. That includes the spinal muscular atrophy program. Spinraza was one of the treatments, and that actually hits close to home for me. My cousin's daughter has type 1 and actually received Spinraza during their clinical trials. And so just having that personal connection to me was just great to hear that, the drug company was able to get a priority review voucher and was incentivized to continue the Spinraza program all the way through the process. And then they were rewarded a PRV as a result. So we have talked to many within the industry. They have said very unequivocally, this is something that really helps us to continue on through phase 3 all the way through. And it is a bonus for us to be able to then utilize, and a lot of the smaller companies that we've talked to are able to transfer it or sell it, essentially, and reinvest all of that money into research and development, into new treatments and cures. And so there's even the 39 that were not awarded, there is spillover effects to other companies that can take advantage of a sale or a transfer to and from. And so we view this as a very strong policy that should be extended. It is an authority that we provide that needs to be essentially, the bill is a very simple bill. We strike the year and we insert a new year. So it's a very easy piece of legislative text to understand. But we need your help because not everyone on the House and Senate side are supportive of this idea. Many of them are very antagonistic just towards anything that could help drug companies whatsoever. And even though we don't really understand it, because this is a win-win for patients as well, and so that's something that we're trying to work through. And the bill has been referred to the Energy and Commerce Committee, which my boss is a member of, and so we're actually having a hearing this week to discuss the bill further and work it through the process. And so this is something that we historically, in the last reauthorization in 2020, had 42 co-sponsors, bipartisan co-sponsors. 22 were Democrats, 20 were Republicans, so very even split. Has a long history of recognition that this is something that we should be doing. This has been successful. It has led to more treatments and cures for children with rare diseases. And so we are going to, debate it and work it through the legislative process. And we could definitely use an additional bump in co-sponsors, so it would be just fantastic to have folks from both sides of the aisle be willing to add their name and support, and that's where you all are so vital. We're so appreciative of you being willing to make that ask here this week with your members of Congress to say, hey, this is a bit of a niche policy, but it's really important to the community because it will lead to more investments in research and development and more treatments and cures down the line. So that's something that my boss has always wanted to champion, and we're happy to do it again. And we believe that we will be able to get this through the process, but this Congress, more than any other that I've been in, and I've been with my boss for 8 years, has been very difficult. So nothing's going to be easy, but we are determined, and we appreciate all that you do to advocate for patients nationwide. And with that, I will turn it over to Ms. Kennedy.
Thank you, Chris. Well, Melissa, bring us home and talk about the impact the PRV has had on your community.
That's a happy topic. So as mentioned, I represent the International Rett Syndrome Foundation. We're a 40-year-old organization that is dedicated to transforming the Rett syndrome research landscape, while at the same time empowering families who are living with Rett. And I'm very happy to say that last March, about 2 weeks after we left this meeting, we became one of the 5% of rare diseases that has an FDA-approved treatment. I always feel awkward without applause, and I'm even a little teary. I have been with the foundation for 6 years, and the vast majority of the work that needed to happen to get us to last March happened well before I was there. It started with investments that were made in 2009 and 2010. So it was a 13, 14-year ride to this final FDA-approved treatment. And I will also say that the priority review voucher played a pivotal role in getting us over the finish line. Let me start just quickly by talking a little bit about what Rett syndrome is. It's a neurodevelopmental disorder. It's caused by a mutation on the MECP2 gene. The MECP2 gene makes a protein that lives in every cell of an individual's body. So when you have Rett syndrome, every aspect of your life is affected. It's usually identified between 12 and 18 months old when parents notice that a child is not achieving new milestones. And then Rett syndrome gets to work eliminating all of the child's capabilities that they had even acquired to that point. Individuals with Rett are not able to speak, walk, purposefully use their hands. At its worst, there are intractable seizures, scoliosis, GI issues, cardiac issues, autonomic dysregulation, etc. Historically, it was believed that it was an intellectual disability. However, with the influx and the use of eye gaze technology, we've learned that individuals with Rett are cognitively age appropriate. So that's wonderful, and at the same time, it really heightens our understanding of the fact they're simply trapped in their body and require 24/7 care. So for rare disease, and it's been commented a lot today, cures are elusive, and there's little kind of business case for investing in drug development, and this room knows the despair of receiving a rare disease diagnosis, especially when there's no cure. Time matters, months matter, weeks matter, days matter. You can't move things quickly enough, and that's why the priority review voucher is so important. So in March of 2023, FDA approved a compound called trofinetide for the treatment of Rett. It was first for Rett. It was also the first for any neurodevelopmental disorder as well. And Acadia Pharmaceuticals now makes this compound commercially available to the 6,000 people in the United States living with Rett syndrome under the trade name of DAYBUE. And they did take advantage of the priority review process to help to make sure that happened, which was wonderful. Hundreds and hundreds of people now have access to DAYBUE, and we're really excited and celebrating that. It works really well for a lot of people. It doesn't work for others, and that shouldn't surprise any of us. Even high blood pressure required, there are 70 different medications for high blood pressure, so a fix for any of us is not going to be easy. We need more treatments and more therapies. We're fortunate in that we currently have 2 gene therapy clinical trials that are occurring right now in the US in humans. We're really excited about that. The companies that have pipeline products are going to want to access the priority review mechanism. And, as was mentioned, nobody loses. The companies are able to expedite commercializing quicker, funds flow more quickly, and patients and families get quicker access to treatment. I just think it makes sense all around. It's really easy to get caught up in numbers and statistics. I want to share just a couple of little videos, if I could. The first is Kerrigan, who did not have words, and fortunately at her birthday party at school, her teacher had her iPhone out. Okay, we're going to start with a different sweetie. This is Claire. Claire did not have purposeful use of her hands before, receiving this treatment. And if you can imagine just the absolute lack of control of not being able to manipulate your environment or anything. And her sister photobombs at the end, and that is the best part of this for me. But let me go ahead and...
No. Claire, is that yummy? You ready? Did you take the picture yet?
She's like, Mom, did you get this? Did you get this? And here's Kerrigan at her birthday party at school.
Are you having a good birthday? I'm happy. You're happy? You said I'm happy? I'm happy too.
Yeah. So I hope that we all have videos like this that we're able to watch and enjoy, and I've seen both of those at least 100 times, and I cry every time, so forgive me. Thank you for your time today, and thank you for listening to our story.
Well, I hope, thank you to Chris and Melissa for sharing those insights. I hope that you can now tell why we think that the need to reauthorize this part of the orphan drug incentive puzzle is really undeniable. So I hope you will join me in making this ask, which is again for on the House side to co-sponsor the Creating Hope Reauthorization Act of 2024, and on the Senate side, to please support the reauthorization of the Pediatric Priority Review Voucher Program. So we have, I think, time for just maybe one question for each of our speakers today. And first, I thought, Chris, can you give our advocates advice on how they can best support this program, which is, I think you used the word, a bit of a niche policy issue, but one that truly does come down to impacting the patient community. How, as a staffer, what moves you when you hear from patients on these types of maybe wonky policy issues?
Well, I think the video that we just watched is the most impactful in terms of how this is actually reaching and helping patients in real life. Now, there's going to be a debate about whether this program is actually working, or whether those treatments would have been developed anyway. But and that's for us to figure out a debate. But I think in terms of the actual patient impact, in terms of sharing that, there are so many rare diseases that don't have any sort of treatment or cure at the moment. Anything we can do to help push that process along and move people into the 5% bucket will be incredibly helpful and a worthy pursuit. So just trying to tell your story about the challenges of rare disease in general, and why this has been helpful specifically for kids. I think a stat that I read that almost 50% of rare diseases are pediatric, and so this is a big chunk of the 10,000 rare diseases out there. Is to have an incentive available to get more treatments to market faster. And which will then lead to more research and more interest and more development the longer that this extends. So just trying to tell your patient stories, I think, will be the most impactful thing you can do.
Thank you. And Melissa, we know that, as you mentioned, one treatment isn't going to work for everyone, and that even for those 5% who are lucky enough to have a treatment, that doesn't mean that need is met. So can you talk a little bit about one of the benefits of a PRV being able to push that first treatment over the finish line? What's happened in the Rett syndrome space as a result?
That's a really good question. I think the fact that there was an FDA approval in and of itself in Rett, and then also in a neurodevelopmental disorder where there were no biomarkers or really objective clinical outcomes, I'll have to say, has just created a massive amount of interest in Rett syndrome. Individuals are now seeing, companies are saying, whatever stage they're at, it's possible to get a treatment over the finish line, and so they're willing to take a chance. Our phone has been ringing a lot at the foundation from labs all over, and it's been a wonderful, wonderful opportunity, but labs all over, small companies saying, we've seen it's possible, can you help us get further invested into Rett? Who do we need to get connected with? Can you introduce us to pharma, et cetera? So that's the energy that we're starting to see right now.
Awesome. All right, I'm not sure if we have time for questions, but it looks like Annie has one, so we will make time.
Can we just, for everybody, clarify what pediatric means in this legislation for one quick second? Because I know there are a lot of people in the room who have pediatric onset conditions or represent communities that do, and then some that are on the cusp, because the good news is our populations are aging, and then some that are diagnosed later. So there's been work done around this. So I asked my friend Ron Bartek, who's done some of this work with the FDA, to just share the clarification on what the term pediatric means in this legislation.
Okay. Thank you, Annie. And so just to clarify, we know, Annie and I both know, that there are those among you who think, do I have a pediatric disease? I'll tell you that the original guidance from the FDA on this PRV was that to be pediatric, more than 50% of your patients had to be under the age of 18. Well, I went to Gayatri Rao, who was then the director of the Office of Orphan Product Development, and said, well, our disease, Friedreich's ataxia, is not eligible by that, because the good news is our patients live longer than 18. But look at all the damage that's done before 18. So she had a couple of us come in and meet with her, and the Representative Susie Kuhn of the pediatric division of the FDA. And they listened to our position, and they said before the end of the meeting, we're going to change the guidance. We will consider this on a case-by-case basis and consider it resolved around the issue of when is the debilitating damage done. So we became immediately eligible. So I bet you there are, how many people would represent diseases that would meet that qualification? Genetic diseases in which most of the damage is, a lot of the damage is done but before you're 18. So you are eligible. Don't be confused about that.
Also, patient advocacy matters. We'll just take that away from that story as well.
Right. Well, with that, I hope that you've got a little bit of insight now into what is the PRV. Again, it's a voucher that's awarded after a drug has been approved that can be either used to get priority review, shortens 4 months off the review process for a drug that wouldn't otherwise qualify, or it can be transferred or sold to another company, and that revenue then is part of the key incentive for that original company to invest in that pediatric drug development program. So again, we need to reauthorize this program. If Congress does not act by September 30th, then the program will start to sunset. Drugs that are not designated by that time as rare pediatric diseases would not be eligible for a PRV. And then after September 30th, 2026, the FDA would not be able to award any more PRVs. So we know that we need all of the pieces of the puzzle that we can get to help push treatments over the finish line, and we absolutely cannot afford to lose this one. So thank you all for being here. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you to Chris and his boss for really being a champion on this issue, and thank you to Melissa for sharing such sweet stories of the impact. And with that, I will turn it over to Shannon? Caitlin. All right. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Hello, guys. So if I have not had a chance to meet you yet, my name is Caitlin Laws. You've probably seen my name a lot in your inbox lately. So I'm happy to be here with you guys, put a face to all the names, and meet everyone I haven't had a chance to meet yet. I'm going to talk to you guys about preparing for your Hill meetings. I know you've had a chance to get a lot more deep information on the specific policy ask. And we do have one more ask we're going to cover after this, but I want to talk to you about what tomorrow is going to look like. So if you are signed up to participate in Hill meetings, you should have received an email from Advocacy Associates last Tuesday with a link to your meeting schedule. If you do not have that, or you haven't been able to get into your meeting schedule, we will help you out with that today. Advocacy Associates is going to be outside where we had lunch, set up at a table from 2 to 5. So if you're not able to get into your meeting schedule, if you have conflicts with your schedule, if you're not signed up for Hill meetings but would like to sign up, they can help you with all of those things out there. And like it says here, you can also view your schedule on the Advocacy Associates app, which is called Advocacy Day. So when you open your schedule there, you'll be able to see each meeting that you have been assigned to, where it's located, what time it is, who you're meeting with in the office, and the other advocates who are going to be in the meeting with you. This is where you can also fill out the meeting feedback form to let our staff know how did the member or their staffer react to the things that you were asking for. And this will help us do some follow-up after meetings, just to keep the momentum going. So some important meeting tips. Every meeting is important. It does not matter if there is one advocate or 40 advocates in the meeting. Every single meeting is important and impactful. Meetings are scheduled anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. Most of your meetings will be 30 minutes, but be sure to check that time on your meeting schedule. Very important when you go into your meetings to be kind, to be respectful, not only of the staffers' time, but of the other advocates' time. You will have time to meet with each other today and plan an agenda, but we want to make sure that if you want to speak in your meetings, you have a chance to do so. So when you're in your meetings and you're speaking, be sure to be respectful of the time that you all have there together. And say thank you to the staffers or the members that you're meeting with if they have, completed an ask in the past for you, or if they have supported legislation that's positively impacting the rare disease community, because that thank you will go a long way. And of course, do not miss any scheduled meetings. We know that things happen, emergencies happen, but if you're not going to be able to make one of your scheduled meetings, please let us know ahead of time, and we will let the office know to expect one less person, or if you're the only advocate in the meeting, then we'll go ahead and cancel that meeting. If you are running late for your meeting, contact Advocacy Associates through the app and let them know. They will contact the office and let them know that you're running a couple of minutes behind, but you are still on your way. We do ask that you do not try to reschedule the meeting yourself, because if there are other advocates in the meeting, they wouldn't be aware of the schedule change. So again, just show up for the meetings on your schedule. If you have any conflicts, let us know and we will take care of that. If you do have any meetings that are listed as TBD and they do not have a assigned time yet, we are still waiting on a couple of times to be confirmed, but once they are confirmed, they will be updated in the meeting app. You will get an email that the update has been made, and you can go on and check out the meeting time. So the size of your meeting is going to depend on the size of your state, the size of your district, and how many friends you have here from your state. Our house meetings are typically going to be smaller, so anywhere from 2 to 5 people, and some Senate meetings will be very large. I will add, we have reserved a large room on the Senate side for some of the really large Senate meetings who, the member's office can't accommodate 45 advocates. We have a large room for you guys to meet in, and so that will also be listed on your meeting schedule if you are meeting there. We have assigned a team coordinator to meetings with 5 or more advocates. You may have heard from your team coordinator over email, but if not, they will have a chance to introduce themselves to you today, and they are going to help you get the agenda ready for your meetings to make sure everyone is prepared and ready to go. If you do have a meeting with 5 or more advocates and no team coordinator, do not worry. Nothing is wrong. We just maybe did not have anyone volunteer to be a team coordinator, and that's okay. You guys can still work together and coordinate and draft the agenda together. All right, so if you are in a smaller meeting, such as a house meeting with 1 to 4 people, each person will be able to speak for at least 2 minutes each. Of course, those larger meetings, again, the Senate meetings, the team coordinator is going to help you guys work through an agenda based on who wants to share their story, who wants to share an ask. If you're here and you're nervous and you don't know what you want to say in a meeting, and maybe you just want to observe, that's also okay. There's power in numbers. Everyone does not have to go in and share their story if that's something that you're not comfortable doing. But everyone should at least have the opportunity to introduce themselves. And then again, as it says here, if you don't share your story, that's okay. Your presence matters. There's power in numbers. So even being there and introducing yourself and supporting your fellow advocates goes a long way. So what do these meetings look like? In a few minutes, you guys are going to have a chance to meet with your teams and develop your agendas. So just a couple things to keep in mind. Start with short introductions. This can be your name, your rare disease, where you're from in the state that you're representing. And then you will have a couple of people share their rare disease story or their experience with rare disease. And then you will have folks move on to the legislative ask. Especially in these large meetings, we do ask that you only have one ask, just to leave time for other folks to speak. Of course, if you are in a meeting by yourself, you are not limited to only one ask, or if you're in a small meeting. But we do want to make sure, again, that we're leaving time for everyone to speak if they wish to do so. And then, of course, if there isn't enough time for you to speak during the meeting and you think of something you want to say later, the email address for the staff that you are meeting with is on your Advocacy Associates app, so you can reach out at any point. If you don't see the email address on there, you all know where to find me. Email me, and I will get it for you. Perfect. So the goal in your meetings is to share your story and have your member of Congress take action on your priority. So stay on message, guide the conversation by introducing yourself and explaining that you are all here for Rare Disease Week, and that you are joined by 600 other advocates also on the Hill for Rare Disease Week. And share your story, share your ask. Be sure to be clear. Make sure that your request is clearly articulated and actionable. So saying, please co-sponsor the Safe Step Act, or please support the priority review voucher reauthorization. Again, each advocate should have at least no more than 2 asks, but be sure to choose legislation that's important to you and that you connect with. I know we're going into deep dives on all of the official asks today, but if you're not necessarily feeling like any of these connect to you and your experience, and you want to talk about a different piece of legislation, that is okay. We ask that you just bring a one-pager with you so that you can leave it with the staff afterwards. Like you heard earlier today, they take tons of meetings, so having those one-pagers afterwards is really helpful in making sure that they can remember everything you're sharing with them and all of these important details and exactly what it is that you are asking the member to do. Again, you can determine your ask for your meeting, but of course this year's suggested legislative ask include the Interagency Coordinating Committee that you all heard about earlier, the Creating Hope Reauthorization Act, or the PRV reauthorization, the Accelerating Kids Access to Care Act, and then the last 2 we are going to get to this afternoon are the Safe Step Act and the Rare Disease Congressional Caucus. I see some folks taking pictures of the screen, so I'll leave this up for you for a sec. Just grab your pictures. I'll also add that we do have one-pagers on each of these asks in the foyer right outside the doors. So be sure to grab some one-pagers for yourself, to leave behind for your meetings. Those are all out there for you guys. We do also have a couple of legislative ask one-pagers out there that aren't necessarily the suggested ask, but our lovely partners have provided for us to have there for you guys. So be sure to check the one-pagers out right outside the door whenever we are done. Like we said, leaving the one-pager behind after your meeting is really important. You only need to leave one per ask behind in each meeting. And if you can't find them for whatever reason, or you need a virtual copy, they are all also on the Advocacy Associates platform or the Rare Disease Week Attendee Corner. Perfect. So tomorrow, Hill meetings will take place from 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock. Your individual schedule will just depend on what time your meetings are listed in your schedule. So be sure to check that if you haven't already. And again, if you need help getting into your meeting schedule, Advocacy Associates will be right outside from 2 to 5 o'clock. So be sure to stop by there and they will help you out. And then Wednesday, we have a very full day on the Hill. So we will get started with breakfast at 9:30. And then we will have our DEIA discussions. This is going to take place from 10 to noon. After these discussions, we will have lunch, and then we will have the Rare Disease Congressional Caucus briefing from 1 to 2:30. After that, we will all head over to the Senate side together, and on our way over, we'll stop, take our group photo on the Capitol stairs, and then we will all celebrate the end of Rare Disease Week together at our Rare Artist Reception. If you haven't been to the Rare Artist Reception before, highly recommend it. It's a great time. You get to hear from all of our lovely Rare Artist awardees, and it's always a very touching event, so highly encourage that one. Just some logistics for you all tomorrow. This lovely map here with all of the arrows will show you kind of the layout for tomorrow. So you'll see the U.S. Capitol building is right in the middle. All of the House office buildings are going to be on one side of the Capitol. All of the Senate office buildings are going to be on the other side of the Capitol. There are tunnels that go between the House office buildings. So if, for example, you have a meeting in one House office building, but then you have another, say, back-to-back in a different House office building, you do not have to walk outside and do security again. You can use the tunnels. There's signage in all of the buildings that will tell you how to get to the tunnels and how to use them. But that's going to be the quickest way to get from between the House buildings and between the Senate buildings. If you are going from the House side to the Senate side or vice versa, you will have to come outside and walk across for that. But as far as going between meetings on one side, either the House or Senate, you can use those tunnels for a bit of a quicker commute. And you can also take the Metro tomorrow. It's pretty accessible to the Hills, so the closest Metro stop on the Senate side is going to be Union Station. This is the red line, and then the closest Metro stop on the House side is Capitol South. I believe that is the blue, orange, and silver line, but I haven't been in DC in a while, so you might want to check that one. But be sure to use the Metro if you are staying on it. It'll be the quickest way to get to the Capitol. So now we are going to meet with our teams, the time you guys have all been waiting for. We will use this time to strategize for Hill meetings tomorrow. The goal is to leave here with an agenda for your meetings. So when you go into the meeting tomorrow, you know exactly who's speaking about what and in what order you want to speak in. Our staff will be floating around the room to answer questions for you all. I will also note that in the conference room across the hall, we will have some of the larger states meeting over there just for space purposes. You can find your table or what room you're in here. So if it says ballroom A or ballroom B, you are going to be across the hall on the other side. If you have one of the numbers here, then you are going to be in this room at your individually signed table. So go ahead and move to your table, and if you have any questions, find a staff person and let them know.